Hey, welcome back. This will be part 3 of our Elder Scrolls 6 wish list. I'm going to do my best to try to get it all out in this one. Thank you for joining us. First thing, right off the bat, we're going to go into better speech skill. This is something I noticed in recently in a Fudge Muppet video. They were talking about how speech is terrible in Skyrim, and after playing a lot of Oblivion recently, I tend to agree. Because in Oblivion, every single individual that you encounter has a personal affinity score that you use a little mini game to reach a level of affinity with each individual person, and that completely changes the way they respond in dialogue. It really makes speech very different and much better, because in Skyrim there's hardly any speech skills, and when you get a speech skill check, you either pass or fail. There's no minigame, there's no persuading. It's very, very different, and it's not very good. I would like to, at least with certain core characters, to have the speech skill actually govern and maybe different, be able to persuade people into liking you more, convince them, have certain special speech options for every character if you have a high enough speech skill. Stuff like that. Be able to convince them. Be able to do favors for them. Stuff like that. Maybe even be able to give them gifts. Now, moving on from that, I would also like to see families. Families is a huge thing for me. I would definitely like to be able to, when you build your own house, whether in the improved settlement system that I was wanting, or inside of a pre-built home, that I think should definitely be available. I don't think anybody should be forced to participate in the settlement system. I think that's one of the key things that Bethesda screwed up on with Fallout 4, is making it to where it was virtually mandatory. I think what you want to do is give the players the option. But anyway, if players do want to participate in the family mechanic, I think that there should be one of each race and gender to be able to marry. I think you should be able to marry anyone of any race or gender, however you want. And as for children, I think that you should be able to have your own children. I don't think we need to get explicit, but I think that it should be able to have children with your wife or husband in the game. And with those children, I want, one of the biggest reasons why I see Bethesda made it to where you had to adopt children in Skyrim is the complexities of having biracial children and how to design biracial children, and would they even be possible in certain circumstances. I think it's pretty clear with the existence of things like Bretons that we know that man and mer can easily interbreed, and we've seen man-mer couples in the Elder Scrolls franchise. It's not unheard of. So I think that designing character models for children of a combination of all the man-mer races wouldn't be that hard. They basically look like Bretons. Maybe like a dark elf with would have slightly darker skin, or a high elf would have like a yellow tinge to their skin. But stuff like that. No big deal. I think it would just be cool to have that kind of customization. I completely understand if they avoid like the beast races. Like the idea of somebody trying to come up with a Khajiit Argonian crossbreed would be very difficult and probably wouldn't look good at all no matter what they did. So moving on from that one, I think talking in terms of character race, another big issue would be racial specific quests. So I mentioned earlier in the first part that it would be a cool idea, since this area is going to be near the mountains between High Rock and Hammerfell, that it would be really cool if there would be a quest line to rebuild Orsinium. Now, because of the nature of Orsinium, naturally I feel like the only way you would be able to join said Orsinium once it's rebuilt is if you are yourself an orc. And I feel like the orcs in question trying to rebuild Orsinium probably would probably attack a Redguard or a Breton on sight, considering it was the Redguards and Bretons that destroyed Orsinium.
For the Knights of the King.
I don't want to get too political with this one, but I just think that it would make sense for several of the NPCs to interact with you differently based on what character you choose. For instance, the All-Merry Dominion is all about racism against the other races. They hate all the races of man, and they want to eradicate them. Therefore,
in the name of the King,
only way you would be able to like join the Thalmor would be if you are a high elf, which would be a cool thing to join if you were into that sort of thing. It is supposed to be an RPG, and everybody should be able to play however they want. But moving on from that, for the final thing I have, and I think this one would be significantly important because it's something that has been very common in a lot of games lately, and that's customizable layered armor. This is something that we've been seeing with fighting games like Injustice 2 and the upcoming Mortal Kombat games. Everybody likes to make their character look the way they want. And Fudge Muffet also did a video on how enchanting and smithing is terrible. And I think that the smithing and enchanting would be a lot better if they geared more towards a specific playstyle instead of just base damage increase. Stuff like Fallout 4's weapon mods, where you could put on a heavy receiver and it made the gun weigh more, but it made it do more damage. Stuff that has benefits to one playstyle but minuses to other playstyles. That way nothing gets too overpowered. I think you could very easily do something like that with armor and weapons. And another thing with the layering is, with a lot of armor, most people wear clothes under their armor, and the clothes tend to show out. We saw that as the clothes were basically included in the armor. You kind of see it in the texture, that there was always like a little cloth under the armor that you wore. But I would actually like to be able to get your own clothes, have them show through the armor a little bit, depending on the type of armor you're wearing, and completely customize them how you feel. To have different dyes that you can dye them, which would be a very common thing in Hammerfell. Plenty of dyes and stuff, a lot of trade. And I think that would be a nice mechanic. Another thing that I forgot to mention earlier is, since this is going to be set in Hammerfell, the culture of Hammerfell is very... There are a lot of pirates. There's a lot of sea travel. And I think it would be make a lot of sense if Bethesda finally added some kind of water exploration and transport. We didn't see a lot of that in Skyrim. Water was pretty much non-existent. It was just there. And I think with like Assassin's Creed and Witcher, that it wouldn't be that hard for Bethesda to design like a little boat, something small that you could travel around in. It wouldn't be that big of a deal. I think it would be cool because it's definitely an ingrained part of the culture. And that'll be it for this one. Thank you all for watching. Have a good day.